Hello, hello everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome to Boss Brush. We haven't done one of these for a while. I am going to attempt, over the course of the next 2 hours, to draw every alien in the original XCOM, by which I mean UFO Enemy Unknown, also known as XCOM UFO Defence, also known as XCOM Enemy Unknown, but not the modern one, the old one. And Terror from the Deep, its sequel, in 2 hours, from memory. Despite the fact that they're, like, made up of about 50 pixels. Hello. How are we? I have chat next to my drawing tablet, so I should be able to look at chat more during these. That's my only issue with these streams, is I don't tend to look at chat very much. So, yeah. I have 22 aliens to draw. That gives me about 5 minutes each. Some of them are going to be very easy, some of them are going to be more tricky. Which is quite fun. Not the new one, the old one. It's a good name. Yeah. So let's, I suppose, we'll just jump straight in, shall we? We have limited time. I won't put a timer on screen for this one, but I'll be keeping track, roughly speaking. So right, I've tried to make it look as much like the Terror from the Deep UFOpedia as possible. I've basically gotten a list of the names of the aliens from the XCOM wiki, UFOpedia, and just put them down, and hopefully I remember what they all are. Here goes. Right, XCOM, number 1, Sectoid, simple, boom, there we are. Full disclosure, this was my warm-up drawing. This is a fun Sectoid. Now, let's do a different one. Right, how are we going to do this? They're a bit sort of shorter and fatter than I drew in that one, so... How are we all doing today, anyway? We all well? This looks a little bit like a tiny version of the Living Failures from Bloodborne, but small legs. Yes, the music in the background is just a version of the music from the original game. I say a version because it was, you know, back in those days, hardware wasn't consistent, so sound cards would change the sound of the music. So this doesn't sound an awful lot like the music I'm used to in the Open XCOM version, but... You're good, just finished tomorrow's Atlas Tober drawing and you're really happy with how it turned out. Fantastic. Let's hope I can approximate that kind of enthusiasm over the course of this. So yeah, Sectoids. Sectoids are the foot soldiers of the base game. They do most of the work. They're based on the Greys, that you're probably familiar with. I don't really know an awful lot else about them. Some of them have psychic powers. If in doubt, draw it shrugging. Putting a little bit more time into posing these things rather than just drawing the ideas, because some of these are going to be very straightforward. So I'm going to try and do something with it. The Grey's Anatomy. You do actually get autopsies to these things, so I suppose that you do technically get to learn about the Grey's Anatomy. Give it a big old grin. Like, I know you're gonna shoot me. Okay, and then just kind of these a bit, make that a bit wider. You hope you can get it on paper the way you have in your head, but angles. What are we talking about? Oh, you get to start on the final Atlas Tober drawing. Ooh, exciting. I'm looking forward to the final Jocktober one. It seems fitting. Tomorrow's one is very fitting. It's a shame it wasn't the last one, really. But random numbers generators and all that. Anyway, here's a sectoid with oddly shaped proportions. It's an alien. I can get away with a lot. Have a belly button. Why not? You're probably a clone, but it doesn't matter. Next too long. Doesn't matter. We move on. This isn't the worst thing I've ever drawn in one of these. Sectoid, done. Next, Cyberdisc. Easy. Cyberdiscs follow sectoids in like Terra missions and stuff like that. They're much simpler design than they are in the remake. They're a disc. Big old floating disc thing. You're working on the final drawing for the D&D theme, and so many people. Well, we saw the preview of it. It looked very good. I'm pretty sure this one has a thing like that, and then there's a sort of a line that goes over the top of it. And that's pretty much it, to be honest. This is what a cyberdisc looks like. It doesn't unfurl like it does in the remake. I wish I still kept my reaction to that. That was, yeah, wasn't expecting that. Nor indeed what happened subsequently. Is it the Crow? Hello, Crow. We're drawing every alien from the original 2 XCOM games. From memory, in 2 hours. We've done a sectoid. We're now doing a cyberdisc. Which looks like a kind of odd burger right now. So, that's the thing. Just include a little bit of cyber lettuce. Some cyber ketchup dripping out of it. I haven't got a lot to do on this one, to be honest. So as is my, well, it's technically my draw through rules, but it works for pretty much anything. If in doubt, make it silly. Some ruffled lettuce. Can't draw lettuce, turns out. Ah, the things you learn doing this sort of stream. You're going to try and get 8 pages coloured by the end of Halloween, my word. Well, best of luck. Along with everything else you need to do. I struggle to get that done as full-time stuff. You work very quickly. Yeah, anyway. Cyberdisc. It sort of floats off the ground. Like whoosh. I don't know how I could draw something quite so simple, quite so badly, but here we are. These things are quite scary in the original game, especially when you encounter them early game. But, you know, they're a 4-tile thing, they're quite big. Yeah. So I imagine, roughly speaking, here's like a human for scale. Quite big. Weren't you scared of them in the new XCOM? Oh yes, because they unwrap in the new XCOM. It wasn't intentional, but it's there. I suppose the butt should be a little bit higher. It's fine, don't worry about it. Anyway, there's a cyberdisc. It looks terrible. It's the perils of trying to put detail into something very simple. Yeah, I don't know why it's quite so bulbous. Yeah, didn't do very well on this one, did I? Oh well, these things happen. Moving on. Floater, right. Floaters are more complicated than they are in the original. So, oh, sorry, than they are in the remake. In the remake, they're basically jetpacks with heads. In this, they're a tad more complicated. They do have heads. They don't have jetpacks, as far as I'm aware. I'm trying to remember how this goes. They have capes, which is cool. They've got like, I seem to remember from the picture, they've got like spikes coming out of their face or something. It's a bit strange. They're kind of grumpy. Yep, this is where the from memory bit comes in. The thing I do remember is that their I think, if I recall, sort of, as it were, bare-chested. So this would be sort of where the chest is. There's probably like a belt or something. But then it's basically, well, hang on, let's give it a face. That's what floaters look like, honestly. We'll give them horns up here as well. Why not? Probably is. Why not? I'm not taking that bit of the drawing seriously, it seems. So, anyway. Point B. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is what happens down here. So, let's try and sort that out. So there's the hands on hips sort of thing. They have arms, which is sort of, by which I mean sort of organic arms. And then they just sort of turn into a weird sort of mush of flesh down here, but the flesh sort of goes around a central metal spike. Is it a spike or is it like a drill? I can't remember exactly what it is. And then that all sort of starts to go around here, and then underneath you get the big metal ball, which is presumably the mechanism by which they float. Yeah, it all kind of goes wrong about that. A lot of these are kind of interesting design choices. But I think these are kind of the most unusual in that respect, where it's kind of like, oh, I kind of get it, and then you keep looking down like, oh, no, I don't get it anymore. Not sure what happened here. There we go. My tactic is, given my reputation with these sorts of things, if I'm drawing something that's supposed to be a monstrosity, I've already got a head start. A bit thicker neck, maybe. They have float material too. Yes, this is the egg. This is the ancestors, predecessors. I'm not sure precisely how this fits in the shared Final Fantasy XCOM timeline, but there's definitely something the head. Obviously, I just made up, but I feel like I'm definitely missing something else, and I'm trying to think what it is. It doesn't matter all that much. You get the idea. The main point is the weird flesh around the strange orb. Always nice to have a strange orb every now and then. Make it shiny. First, don't like. By the way, I have the original XCOM soundtrack going on in the background. When that finishes, the original Terror from the Deep soundtrack will begin playing, and when that finishes, the Legacy Pack soundtrack from, I think, XCOM 2, I think it's an expansion for XCOM 2, will begin playing. I imagine there'll be a bit of a jarring experience when that music kicks in, because it's all modern and produced and stuff. So, yeah. Expect that about an hour and 20 minutes in. Anyway, flesh, wobble, thing. Floater. Here they are. These are sort of like the sectoid equivalent of this group of enemies. They have guns, they float around, they shoot things. They're not that powerful, but they float. And that's unexpected. And when that all ends, we panic. No, there'll be... I think that's enough, but I have another video after that, which is just the soundtrack to the new XCOM, so I thought I'd include that as well. So yeah, sectoids, basic foot soldiers, cyber discs, terror units that go alongside sectoids, floaters, they would be foot soldiers if they had feet. Their terror unit is the Reaper. Reapers are strange. They're sort of like... sort of big... Okay, hang on. Let me. I want to channel Oobs here, because Oobs' Pokemon design that she did is actually kind of similar to what I want to draw. Slash Heap, I believe, was the name. They have the horn thing. Anyway, so these guys are... I tend to call them dogs in playthrough, even though they don't look like dogs. I also thought they were on 4 feet, but a cursory look at the sprite for them indicates that they are... They look like they're supposed to have 4 feet, but they're sort of nubs where the front feet should be. It's slightly strange. These are nubs. They are nothing else. Do not confuse these for anything else. And then they've got sort of like pig noses, and they're sort of also aggressive, unsurprisingly. How'd you make it look like it's growling? It just looks kind of derpy. Anyway, they have these sort of big, sort of horny things made of metal. They've got like a kind of big old chunky backpack thing. They're basically, I assume, just kind of large wild creatures that the aliens have found on a planet, and then they've just tamed them slightly enough to make them into sort of war animals and bring them into battle. They are not breasted boobly, at least not these ones. I shall not make biological judgments on their entire species based on the ones we see in battle. I'll bring that along a little bit more. Yep, and then they just got sort of big old feets. Big old gripping feets. Yeah, and they're just big terror units. They're much less dangerous than the cyberdiscs because they can't shoot guns. Or lasers or anything like that. So yeah, they just, as long as you keep your distance, you're fine. And they're also big, so they take extra damage from explosions and stuff. Give a little. Oh, the music has kicked in. We're being invaded. That's how I usually do tails, isn't it? When they're sort of swishing from side to side. Wagging a little tail. Look at it go. It's having a grand old time. It's a tail. It's a tail. Tail is wagging from side to side. Done it a little bit squat, I think, if I move it slightly. It looks very off balance. It shouldn't be able to stand up, really. Which is why I always used to think it was on 4 legs, but apparently not. Anyway, you get the idea. Here's what is supposed to be a Reaper. Looking a little bit strange. I don't think any amount of perspective warping is going to help that, but there we are. Definitely a tail. Moving on. I have 5 minutes apiece. Mutant, easy. They look like bodybuilders. Look at them hips. Quite, yeah, quite a big. I'll give them big hips. Why not? Wasn't the intention, but, you know, I'm sure there's some variation genetically in the mutons. Right, I've got to channel my inner Marvel comic drawing thing here and work out precisely how big muscly bodies work, which I do not draw. To be fair, you never see a picture of them from the back, so they might have, you know, particularly significant far sides, shall we say. Dummy thing. That's an expression that the youngsters say, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think any of them wear shoes, so we should be fine in that respect. I have no idea what pose this is. I'm not using reference, funnily enough. Can you tell? So yeah, the mutons in the original are just sort of like big, muscly, sort of humanoid figures. They've got this weird sort of green skin suit on. They're much musclier than this. I have not done them sort of proper credit. They've got all the muscles, all of them, in significant quantities. How do I do this without reference? It's part of the fun, and as you will discover as I go along, I don't do it well. The face is irrelevant. It's the muscles that are important. If in doubt, make it silly. What are human proportions? I'm not entirely sure myself. That's alright, these are mutons, they're not humans. Better than Liefeld anyway? I mean, that it's got a lot of stuff to do, you know? They're bad at it, but... Anyway, I'm running out of time. There's a muton. They're big, they're very strong, they have a lot of health and defense. They probably know anatomy better than I do. I think they're the first things you come across with heavy plasmas, which is not great because heavy plasmas are good. And you don't have them yet. Right, cool. Mutons, done. Next. What comes with mutons? Celatids. Celatids are relatively easy to draw. There we go. They're like floating kidneys. That's pretty much all they are. They're just sort of floating sacks with acid in them. Oh, we're now on the Terror from the Deep soundtrack. Lovely. They don't have a face. They have almost no features at all. They're just kind of lumpy sacks of flesh that float around. And they're very powerful. They spit acid, and it's strong acid. There's probably some sort of horrible stretch marks and stuff. Pretty much it, to be honest. I think maybe a little too wide at the bottom. They're quite thin. Yeah, so these are the Terra units that accompany Mutons. Because if Mutons weren't stupid enough, they decided to just add a floating sack of organs. But don't worry, there's something else that comes with them, which we'll draw next. So yeah, in the original, it's fairly roughly split up between the main aliens and the Terra units that accompany them. They're the kind of the stronger soldier kind of things, the things that do damage. So it's sectoids and cyberdiscs, floaters and reapers. The mutons get celetids and the next thing. Yeah, for bonus points, I'll draw one after you've killed it. Just sort of bursts open. Yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. This is my time to have a little bit of a rest, because these guys are pretty simple. As will be the next ones. But slightly more complicated than the next ones. But this is a celetid. There we are. There's a little recap. We have had Sectoid. I think I preferred my original drawing, to be honest. Yeah, I like that one better. But there we go. We have the Cyberdisc, which is the burger now. Floaters, which don't know quite what's going on with that face, but it's there. Reapers, definitely stubs. Don't worry about it. Muton, happy little fella. And celetid. I'd just like to point out I have played an awful lot of the original XCOM. I have played none of Terror from the Deep, but I have watched several playthroughs. So the last half of this stream is going to be a bit more manic than the first half. Just trying to work out what to draw. And also the designs in Terror from the Deep are a bit weirder. So, yeah. Wish me luck with that. Anyway, how are we all doing? We all well? You dropped your Apple Pen nib first onto your printer, and for a minute there your iPad wouldn't register it. That was a terrifying 60 seconds. My word. They're not cheap, those things. But I'm glad it's all sorted itself out. Screw it, let's break with convention. Give this a face as well. How am I? I'm okay. Today's been unproductive, unfortunately, but these things happen. There's a friend. There's a lumpy, veiny friend. But we have tomorrow and we can work extra hard to get the things done. I know, but I was hoping to do other things tomorrow, and anyway. I need to move on. Next one. Silicoid. Silicoids, unlike the floating flesh bags of, what are the other ones called? Celetids? Yeah, celetids. Silicoids are flesh bags that crawl along the floor. So they're just sort of lumpy blobs. They accompany the floating kidneys. These ones are actually sort of... The veins are more specific because they actually sort of split up the flesh bag bits. So yeah, these guys... Oh, I've been watching a lot of modded XCOM. I'm not sure whether this is true. Do they trail fire? I can't remember if they do. But yeah, they're quite powerful. Well, they're not that powerful. I don't know. I've never had a problem with these guys. They just sort of flump. They've got a lot of health or a lot of defense, one or the other. Not sure. I suppose it doesn't really matter whether you lose a bit of you if you're just a, you know, indescribable sack of organs. Nope. There's a lot of mood going on in chat. So yeah, this is a silicoid. They're unpleasant. Then again, I suppose that's the point. By the way, if you ever want to know anything about the designs from the follow-up to Terror from the Deep, which was Apocalypse, they're pretty much all worse than this. By which I mean they look horrible. Because they're supposed to look horrible. They're supposed to resemble sort of microscopic organisms and be very unpleasant. An indescribable sack of organs. Yeah, I wrote a story about that once. Something literally indescribable. Which also then became an experiment in white coats, blah, blah, blah. Projects that you may or may not see in the future, etc., etc. Anyway. Let's put some stretch marks, because why not? Got all the time in the world. For now, anyway. Let's say they leave a trail of fire, why not? These things were also quite big, but they probably come up to, like, your chest or so. You're worried this wasn't going to be fleshy enough. Well, you know, I've got a limited amount of time. I'm sure I can do a full render. I'll send this to Ploops or something. Why not? I'm sure they can do a good... I think that gives you a good idea as to the fleshiness of these things. On a scale of Puss in Boots from the Shrek movies to a Ploops drawing. This is definitely on the fleshy side. Yeah, make it shiny as well. Why not? Don't really know an awful lot about the reflectivity of these things, but it's a good scale. It's an interesting scale. Good's probably stretching it a bit. Reflective light. Ah, cool. That's a silicoid. Sweaty. Excellent idea. Anyway, moving on. One of the sweatbox now looks like half of an OWO face. Well, there's this one that's kind of close. Here? Oh, no, here. There we go. There's plenty of faces. These are all faces. There's lots of faces, these things. Anyway, moving on. Silicoid's done. Next, Snake Man. So the Snake Men are what became the Thin Men in the remake. So yeah, I've got to draw a snake, I suppose. Draw a box. I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for that. Don't worry. Okay, so... Looks like a sock puppet. Yeah. No. This is no time for goofing around. Sorry, you'll have to clip it from the VOD. So if I recall, the front of their sort of tails is actually sort of metallic. So there's kind of shiny sort of material. No time for goofing around, but that's all you do. You know, don't you also do all the smarts and the history stuffs? Well, with the history with snakes, we have to give it a top hat. It's part of our brand. I never know what to do with the arms. Which is a weird thing to say about a snake. You get the idea. I don't know whether... I think these don't have anything on there. On their upper torsos or anything like that. They're also orange for some reason, not sure why. Just to make them stand out from the rest of the enemies, I guess. Yeah, that'll do. Get rid of some construction here. Bring that arm in. Oops. Got your thumb. It's like the opposite of got your nose. There's a Snake Man. Snake Men are the leaders of the next group of enemies. They're not dangerous particularly. They're quite weak. Yeah, there's nothing really remarkable about them in terms of combat. Supporting sock puppet snack. Yeah. Thin men were orangey snakes. Yes, in the original. I believe also in XCOM 2. I have seen them in XCOM 2. No, whoops. So I believe they return to their orangey state. Thence. Anyway, they're done. The thing that makes snake men dangerous are the things that accompany them. Chrysalids. I looked at a picture of a chrysalid just before I started this, and they don't look anything like I thought they did. So let's try and work that out. So let's try and get the basic sort of structure of the body right down. The one thing I do remember from this is they have very thin legs. And they do the weird thing. Which I'm probably going to get wrong here. No, that's not right. How do they work? Ah, I'm failing already. Anyway, in the game, they just kind of look like aliens from Alien, you know? So they've got this kind of... maybe I'm just thinking of the legs when I do that, maybe not the arms. Yeah, this is probably not going to be particularly accurate because they're so different to what I thought they looked like. Another weird sock ball, but kind of. The thing that really gets me about their design, which in sort of retrospect is kind of creepy, and I'm probably going to end up drawing it creepy, but in the actual picture it doesn't look creepy. Is... Hang on, let's see if we just sort of get basic arms and stuff like that down. I think the upper body's actually quite big. I remember the legs sticking out as looking particularly thin. So it makes sense to do the rest of the body sort of like this. I suppose they got this kind of shell thing. They're kind of insecty things. So for those of you who don't know, chrysalids are bloody terrifying because what they do, they also only do melee attacks, but if they successfully hit a melee attack on one of your soldiers, or on a civilian, or anything, they turn them into a zombie. And then those zombies, and by zombie what I mean is shambling, bloated corpse of a human full of eggs. And when you kill that zombie, those eggs hatch, and it turns into another chrysalid. And that's it, that's gone. The soldier's gone. The moment that happens, your soldier is dead, and they get turned into another enemy, which can also replicate. So they're scary things. This one's doing jazz hands. But yeah, you can, if you, particularly in alien bases, I have had this happen to me. If you get complacent and are just like, oh, there's no more enemies left, I've just got to find that one enemy left on the map, blah, 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 blah. And that one enemy is a chrysalid. You can lose. Just with one, because once one hits one of your soldiers, there's now two, and you have one fewer soldier. And 2 can become 4, and 4 can become 8, and so on and so forth. They're scary things. But yes, anyway, so the weird thing about them is they have these eyes. I know I've drawn these eyes on several of these enemies at this point, but this is actually kind of close. Then, what they have is a big old smile. Just a big old toothy grin. Like this. Hello, Oobs, how you doing? We're drawing all of the aliens from the original XCOM and its successor, Terror from the Deep. We're drawing a chrysalid right now. Let's give it some... Yeah, so it's got a kind of sort of segmented sort of head thing. Probably just to... Who's the dentist? You're a fan. I've seen like fan renderings of these things, like just after Google searching, just to go, is this right? Is this actually what they look like? That make this look a lot creepier than it is in the game. But for some reason, they just look like this. The little bug eyes the side of the face. They remind me of the robots from Dr. Steel. From Dr. Steel. Just big old grins. I don't know what I've drawn here, but it's not a chrysalid. This is the first major failure of the draw through. What is this? Tell you what, let's make it weirder. I've run out of time, but the more joints, the creepier. So that works, right? Or we could do the whole sort of... just amalgamate that into the body. And then bring these down here like this. There we go, that looks horrible. Yeah, so don't post pictures of the thing I'm trying to draw in chat because I don't need any more shame. I've got plenty of that, thank you very much. Anyway, I don't know what this is, but it's a weird cousin of a chrysalid. He's having a grand old time. Try tells me that I'm a butt. I mean, he does that every day, that's fine. Yeah, chrysalid. Moving on. Next, ethereals. This is relatively straightforward. Ethereals are cloaks. So if you can draw a cloak, you can draw an ethereal. They've got shoulder pads for some reason. You got flashbacks to that Disturbed album cover Souls boss. Oh yeah, the Dark Lurker. Let's go like that. These are also orange, funnily enough, but a kind of reddy orange. Their robes. Yeah, they just sort of float around and do horrible psychic things because they're horrible and they're very scary. And we haven't met them in the new game, so that's gonna be fun. Yeah, they're just kind of probably more accurate to say that they're like this. Floating around being creepy. Oh, hang on, we've moved on to the XCOM Legacy soundtrack, so this is going to be a bit more modern. I suppose I could try and do a very quick drawing of what they look like underneath, which is like a sectoid but sort of stretched out. The sort of story with them is that they're psychic creatures, and theoretically they shouldn't be able to function. Their organs don't really support themselves, and they probably couldn't move their limbs. There's no muscle on them, and it's all that kind of stuff. The implication here is that basically they control their entire body psychically. No normal biology functions work anymore, which is pretty cool. I like that idea. And she said, I'll get back to you on Tuesday. What's that about? That's this pose. They float. There's no need for feet. Yeah, I don't think I've done a good job of exaggerating just how thin they look. But yeah, anyway. So he's about to do a shimmy. Yeah. Right, almost there. One more. Sectopods. Sectopods are the terror units that accompany Ethereals. If Ethereals weren't bad enough, you now have Sectopods, which are pretty much impossible to kill. If you don't have a lot of high explosives. And lasers. They're weak to lasers for some reason. These ones sort of look like, as the name implies, I thought they were always just machines piloted by other things, because they look like they've got a cockpit. So this is a sort of big old shiny sort of cockpit thing. Probably not, but there we are. I suppose if you can do an autopsy on it, it's not a creature. Well, it is a creature, and it's not being piloted. I don't know what the autopsy says, really. I've never bothered to look. By that point, why bother with an autopsy? This is the end of the game, pretty much. Feel free to draw an ethereal in a sequin dress. I won't stop you. So yeah, and they've got these big old chunky legs. I like these remixes of the old music. One thing I do remember is they kind of got sort of square-ish sort of feet. Sort of the toes sort of come down like this. Theoretically, it should probably be like this. Yeah. Interceptor music. Is the music a good volume? By the by, now that we've changed. Music's good? Okay, cool. These have probably got guns somewhere, so I should probably draw those. And by probably, I mean they do, and they're scary, because they kill quickly. And there's probably like cables or something. It's got a little radio controlled antenna. Yeah, sectopods, they're big and they're scary. That's a speaker. That makes more sense for Terror from the Deep. Terror from the Deep, a lot of your fights take place underwater, and as a consequence, you use sonic weapons, which send vibrations, very sort of painful vibrations through the water. So that's the thing. Not on sectopods, though. My thought process for this was they shoot with like lasers and stuff, and you don't really need a big aperture for a laser. You just need a small lens, don't you? So maybe there's just lots of them. Oh, doing that maybe indicated just how off-center that was. That's the wrong way around, isn't it? It's better. And I think, generally speaking, probably do that as well. It's not a very good, not a very accurate picture, but there we go. We're an hour in. We have done one game. That's about right. So that's XCOM, the original. We now move to its successor, Terror from the Deep, which basically is a reskin of the original game, and as a consequence there are exactly the same number of enemies. They don't match up precisely one-to-one, but there's a pretty close approximation. For instance, the first ones are Aqua Tides, which are sectoids but underwater. So let's sort that out. How do I draw the sectoid? Oop, there. Like that. Original naming scheme, yes. They wanted a kind of familiarity, a connection. So the story of Terror from the Deep, as the name may possibly imply, is that XCOM was won. You succeeded in fending off the aliens, but the explosion from Mars, having gone to Mars and sorted all that out, you finished the first game by going to Mars, sent a signal back to Earth, which woke up an alien ship that was underwater, and had been for millennia. And then they got to work sorting things out. So all of the enemies are water themed in some way, deep sea sort of monsters. Aquatoids are aquatoids. And some of the missions take place underwater in Terror from the Deep. Some of them take place on cruise liners or beach resorts. These guys have flippers now. Thank you for the sticker try. How you doing? Are you doing well? I'm drawing a thing with flippers. Not particularly successfully. I could do a quick recap once I get to an easy one. Is there an easy one in Terror from the Deep? Probably not. We've already sort of treaded in that territory. They do have some sort of design on their heads. I seem to remember their heads are kind of wider, but I don't mind. They've got a little more advanced design than the original ones, but who knows? Give them gills. What's going on with these proportions? Anyway, how you doing, Tri? You doing well? By the way, we're drawing all of the aliens from the original XCOM and Terror from the Deep. In case you didn't know. Remember. Oh, bye! Have fun. Yeah, Aquatoids. Aquatoids are flipper friends. They shoot you with guns, and they have underwater fishing objects. They dropped the UFO from the title of this game. I can't remember. Are they called LFOs or something? I can't remember. There's an Aquatoid. Oops. Little flippant organism. No, cute. Aquatoid, done. Next, Calcinite. Calcinites are the terror units that accompany Aquatoids. They are diving suits full of goo. To emphasize that there is no longer a human in this thing. slime. I think one of the fun things about the design of this is it's not sort of structural in any way, so the suit's just kind of whatever. It doesn't have a body in it. For a moment you forgot how to spell suit. That's fair enough, it's a strange spelling. Probably like a belt. So yeah, this gives me an awful lot of leeway for drawing incorrect anatomy. Thank you, game. So yeah, these Ethereal units, they melee only attack. I suppose in a sense they're like Reapers, kind of, even though there's a much more Reaper-y enemy later on. Oh god, I'm gonna have to draw that. That bodes well. Whoops, wrong button. I'm sure there are plenty of you who will be much better at drawing that than me, but we'll get there. So yeah, when you do the autopsy on this thing, you find out that the goop inside somehow sort of uses the suit to give it sort of structural integrity, and it can't really sort of stand up on its own. So it's good. I like the design. There are some good designs in Terror from the Deep. I think that's its strong point. Look, there's going to be plenty more talk of that kind of thing later. This is a game with monsters set underwater. It will be inescapable. Tentacles shall return. Like it's kind of floating. So yeah, it's just kind of like a wobbly goop in a suit. A diving suit. Here's some more goop to remind you what's inside. It's goop! Next up, what do we have? Hallucinoids. What are hallucinoids? Hallucinoids are jellyfish. They're big jellyfish. They're kind of like the cyber discs of this world. This is a pretty straightforward one, I suppose. The top of it is sort of translucent, which is quite nice. As is... Nope, there's... my brain thought there was a pun there, and then just bailed one syllable in. You know, I suppose it's better than just going forwards. There's a jellyfish. It is a jellyfish. I mean, it looks like a jellyfish. There's not an awful lot of... I was talking about this game has some good designs in it. This isn't really one of them. It's just a big jellyfish. I think there's like a brain in it. Probably. Something like that. Sounds a bit alien. We'll see a lot of brains. I want to tell you my favourite description of an enemy when we get to it, if I remember what it's called. Because it's just a funny description. You're all cool. Stop trying to make this some sort of objective difference. I mean, there's no reason this can't have a smiley face too. Big old friend. Let's give it some sort of frilly accoutrement. Yeah, it's just a big jellyfish. It's, yeah. They needed a cyber disc and they thought, what's like a disc in the water? Oh, it's jellyfish. It's a big old jellyfish with a brain. Nah! More like tentacle. Am I right? I believe I'm correct. This sort of cortex thing is sort of hooked up via sort of wires. There's electricity going on around here as well. Because why not? I don't know why they're called hallucinoids. I don't believe they make your soldiers panic or anything like that. But hey, there we are. Another quick break. I did not do any warm-up drawing, apart from the horse. Well, clouds. They make you see tiny smiley faces on aliens. Oh no. And it endears you to them, and then you won't want to kill them. They know our weakness. Cute things! Certainly my weakness. Anyway, that's as much of a jellyfish as I'm going to be able to draw accurately in 5 minutes. Humph. Not the cute things. Not the comfy chair. Is that the second stream in a row we've mentioned the comfy chair? Probably. Blow it up. This is the best way to deal with these things. They take 4 tiles worth of damage. Explosive damage happens on multiple tiles. You're taken down quickly. Moving on. Our 5 minutes is up. Oh, hang on, not moving on. Auto-saving. Now moving on. Gillman. Okay, this is going to be a bit tricky. The Gillman is... It's the Gillman. It's I believe, not technically an alien. It's a species of human, or not a species of human, but like an ancestral cousin to humans who have been living under the ocean for ages and who have been militarized by the aliens who are down there. So technically, not an alien. They're an Earth species. They I'm trying to remember what they look like, because they look like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Is it the creature from the Black Lagoon? They also look like the original Silurians from Doctor Who. So they've got sort of big, sort of head things. Sort of like, it's like a sort of cowl, but it's part of their head. It's strange. How do I draw these? They got quite big eyes, I think. And gills, probably, I imagine. That's the thing. What do they look like? The aliens have been stranded there for millennia, you feel like they've earned the green card. They're not aliens. Oh no, you're talking about the aliens who have been there. Well, they've been asleep. We woke them up recently. They crashed there for a while, and then they've been in cryo sleep, and then we woke them up accidentally by destroying the ones who were invading. No, I can't keep doing that. Why not go? This is a creepy game. Why not go for the creeps? This doesn't look anything like the Gill Man. Bottom half, it looks like a man. It's unremarkable. Unremarkable. How does the head go? Oh, this is annoying me. This is... I always have one of these. At least one of these. Whenever I do these. There's like the sort of... This is extraordinarily inaccurate. Oh well, can't win them all. Moving on. Didn't think this was the one I'd have trouble with. Look up Gilman, and you'll realise what I'm trying to draw, and utterly failing it. Okay, I've run out of time. Whoops. Oh no. I will have to move on. Woe is me. Deep One. The Deep Ones actually have a really interesting design, and I'm going to cock that up too. Doesn't have a cannon. We should be safe then. I mean, sonic cannons are weapons in the game, so. But they're sonic cannons, so they just go like that. So yeah, I like these guys' designs. I'm trying to see how is this going to work. Okay, so we've got a kind of well, this is a good Phoenix. Shoot blue hedgehogs at you. Okay, this one already has the kind of shape I'm looking for, so that's good. We're getting there for this one. What should this one be doing with his arms? Because I'm terrible with these things. The deep ones just white guys taking philosophy 101. No, the deep ones are humans that the aliens have kidnapped, is that the right word? Abducted, that's the one I'm looking for. And performed genetic mutations on to turn them into soldiers. There's not much left of the human, just mostly a brain. And also the eyes. I believe in the description it definitely makes mention that the eyes are still there. Just hanging by his sides? Okay, cool. It's difficult to do that with the pose I've given. I have it sort of, you know. Okay, so yeah, so have him sit him on it. So they've kind of got suits on, but I don't really know what they look like. Let's not give it toes. Detail I'm going to forget, so let's just sort of make it up. The thing that is most sort of significant about the design, from my recollection, is they have these sort of tubes coming from the face. I don't know where they go. So let's just say they sort of go back, like this. I love how much messier these get as the stream goes on. They started off alright. And then sort of here they have just sort of a black void with, I think they're supposed to be goggles, but they look like fed up eyes, which I quite like. So sort of like this, but then... So they're not pleased that this has happened. They're thinking, you know, lost the last 2 days of my holiday and then got dragged underwater and turned into an abomination. These things happen, but, you know, could have been in a more convenient time. Almost finished paying off the life insurance premiums, and it took me a few days before it would have gone through, honestly. I'm running out of time for this, so... yeah, that works alright, to be honest. Flat perspective. By which I mean no perspective. So yeah, under these, what I would call eyes, but are probably goggles, there are still human eyes in there. And they are all that are left of the human that began the process. Or had the process begun upon them. There's a sentence in there somewhere. Deep ones, done. Moving on. Zarquids. What on earth is a Zarquid? I'm going to say that's the Nautilus. I think that's right. So I now have to draw a Nautilus. How do they look? It's like sort of Omanite, really, isn't it? Hence I but the sea, yes. So the thing about the Zarquid is the one that I think has one of the best descriptions. Because if you go on the UFOpedia, I can't remember the exact wording, but it is something along the lines of the Zarquid, if I'm thinking of the right alien, this might not be the right one, by the way. The Zarquid is just a giant Nautilus with weapons shoved up its tentacles. That's pretty much the description. I assume it's been weaponized in certain ways, but the way it was written made it sound like they just rammed a sword up there or something. I'm sure it's got eyes or something. Hello, I am Father Zarquid. Yes. I am here to teach you the ways. Oh, don't put that there. Again, I may be thinking of the wrong aliens, because I don't remember these names particularly well. So yeah. Big ol' squirly whirly. Cool. Here's hoping this is actually the enemy I'm thinking of. So yeah, there's just sort of like like a spear sort of sticking out of it. Do you remember? I don't know whether I actually showed you in Dark Souls. There was an enemy that's just like a kind of pile of mush. There are several enemies that are just piles of mush. But this one's a pile of mush with a big face on the front, and then at some point a big spear comes out of the mouth of the face, and it's very unpleasant. Reminiscent of that, I suppose. Something that doesn't really deserve to have a big old weapon sticking out of it. That's probably also like a sword. Just a rake. I am drawing the right one. Okay, cool. It also says, in a really pedantic way on the UFOpedia, not only are they giant nautiluses, but they also are the only nautilus known in the world that can walk backwards, because nautiluses tend to travel that way, but these ones travel this way, and it feels like it was written just to go, look, the developers didn't think about it, but we're gonna try and make it a thing. What else is this? Just a kind of leaf blower. Anyway, Zarquid, done. Moving on. Lobster Man! Look up the description of lobster men, because that's also funny. Just the first two words should do. So the lobster men, as you may possibly entail, are humanoid lobsters. and they're pretty tough. How do you draw a lobster? Have I ever drawn a lobster? Probably not. Do they have like... They have those sort of antennae things, don't they? They're like insects of the sea. But big. I think they have multiple eyes, I'm not sure. So the lobster men, I believe, are also only melee attackers. The lobster man, as per his namesake, is an alien humanoid, looks like a lobster. No, I'm talking about on the general synopsis of all of the aliens in the game. I believe the first two words... Oh, I can't remember what it is. Hang on, let me look it up. Do that. UFOpedia, terror from the deep. Blah, blah, blah. Alien life forms. Yes, lobster man. Oh boy. Full stop. That's the first sentence that describes the lobster man. Oh boy. They're very tough. Very tough. I believe it says in the description that you'll find it very difficult to kill one of them until about halfway through the game. Oh boy. I've just got Tragedies Are Coming by Primus in my head. Because in that video, Les Claypool wears a lobster suit. Yeah, I don't really know what their agenda is. I don't think they need one. They're strong. You can take them down with a drill. You get a drill in this game. But you can just crack them like a walnut. Yeah, this music is rather more modern than... Can swim. Interesting. Oh, the jellyfish. Who'd have thunk it? Don't look up the ones I haven't done yet. Spoilers. I don't really know what there is left to spoil. My favourite ones are the... Oh no, there is... Yeah, there's definitely stuff to spoil. How are we gonna... I don't know how the feet are gonna go. What do lobster feet look like? More claws! Lobster Man! Worst superhero. Haven't done wrist stretches today. Probably a bad idea. Never thought about measuring things in lobster feet, yeah. The less successful follow-up to tiger feet. Does he have enough claws? Probably not. I mean, you know, I don't know what else the antennae are going to do, so... Right, and yeah, they've got this sort of segmented outer shell thing. It's a bit like a cockroach now. Anyway, moving on next. Tassoth. So, the reason I didn't pay attention to when you told me to draw the fish man from the Forest of Doom is, if I was ever going to do that, it would be now. Tassoths are fish peoples. Yeah, I mean, they're the sort of fish people, and they've got like gills. I don't really know how to draw a fish person, to be honest. I'm doing a more successful lizard than when you asked me to draw a lizard. Or reptile. I'm trying to draw a fish. I remember they have very, very sharp teeth. So the Tessoths are fish people. I mean, I don't think there's an awful lot important about them. I always thought they were the replacements for Ethereals, but apparently only the commanders can use the equivalent of psychic things. So, I don't know. Don't really know what they're doing. I suppose they don't need nostrils if they're fish. They've got gills. Is that music done as well? Oh, no, still going. Creepy music. You start with a horse, work backwards from there. Oh dear, if I started with a horse, I probably wouldn't need to work backwards. Probably get it right first time. What do fish look like? I don't know. They got a sort of spiny thing. That's about right. And I think, yeah, again, just one of those things where they're fish on the top and a human on the bottom. So, human centaur. My horses have been improving over the month. That's because I've stopped drawing horses. I've drawn clouds, pangolins, a melon with a face drawn on it. They're sort of more fearsome looking than this, but you know. That's great. Let's make it more interesting. Yeah, fishtail. Why not? It's half fish, half man, half fish. Half fish, half mermaid. Oops. Yeah, again, don't really know what to do with these guys. It's kind of uninteresting. If you have to enjoy loving commentary on Atlas drawings you're not proud of, then you bet your ass, you funky little ass. That's an expression. But you'll be giving loving commentary to everyone else as well, even if they're not proud. I mean, I'm proud of some of them. I liked Clumsy Horse. Clumsy Horse and Timid Horse, they're my favourites. I wanted to bring Timid back for Shouty. As a reaction. And I never did. Only Clumsy got a return gig. Oh, good night, Oops. Thank you for coming along. Did Did you like the M horse by any chance? I will get round to drawing once Foggate is done. Outliers will be a thing again, hopefully. And then I'm going to try and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, I'll have to work something else out. For life and money. I've spent too much time drawing this friend. I've also moved the background somehow. Let's put that back. That'll do, close enough. Haven't been drawing on that, have I? No, good. Marvellous. Moving on. Bio drone. This will be straightforward. Which XCOM music is this from? Oh, the music that's playing at the moment is the XCOM Legacy pack, which is an expansion pack for XCOM 2. I can put the link in Discord after we're finished if you like. So this is basically remixes of the music from the original games, but in the modern game, if that makes sense. Because the Legacy Pack, I believe, is a bunch of missions designed to be like the original game. I think that's how it works. It's not a wrinkly bum. It's a brain. It's a brain in a pod. It's a bio drone. That's what it's called. It's very B-movie. I love it. Just sort of flies around. The best thing about these guys is that they glitch. They have technically no... well, if I remember correctly. They don't have a melee attack, but if they are next to you, they will feel compelled to use a melee attack, despite not having one, so they don't do any damage, so you can just kill them. Which is nice, because you tend to meet these on Terra missions and in cruise ship invasions and all that sort of stuff. But yes, these can also go on land and on water. They just sort of float around. They're very non-threatening. Bio drone. Right, 2 more to go. Oh god. Just remember what one of them is. Oh no. Okay, the last one is going to be... Well, I suppose I've technically got 10 minutes to do the last one. But, okay, the next one's sort of a continuation of this, really. But we can do it. So, yeah. I mentioned that Terror from the Deep is basically a reskin of the original game, and as a consequence, a lot of the mechanics from the original game do carry over. There are some equivalent aliens, like I say, Aqua Tides are just Sectoids. And I suppose biodromes are cyberdiscs, kind of. But some of them are more obvious than others. The Chrysalid was a big hit in the original, so they had to make an equivalent of the Chrysalid called the Tentaculat. The Tentaculat is horrible. It's okay, so we'll do the obvious thing of drawing the big brain that it is. It's mostly a big brain. They like their brains on this game. This is why I wanted to see if Try would be here for this, but you know, these things happen. Yeah, so big brain, lots of... How do you draw brains? They're just sort of infinitely complicated wobbles. Wibbles and squibbles and such. Big brain mush. They're the fractals of the human body. It's VOD friends. Hello, VOD friends. How you doing? You having a good time? We haven't said hello to VOD friends for ages. How remiss of me. Oh, the VOD friends. How you doing? Also, anybody watching this on YouTube at any point in the future, thank you. You're very kind. I hope you enjoy the stockpile of things that I spend 20 minutes every morning putting together. Because you never know, someone might find it fun. Anyway, big brain. Let's get a better shape. That's kind of closer, I suppose. Wonder if VOD Bonnie followed over to Mixer? Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully. Okay, right, good. Whoops, that's rotation. No, thank you. Here's the beak. About right. Here are the spikes. And here are the tentacles. It's a tentaculat. There had to be tentacles. So yeah, these do what the chrysalids do. They capture you, turn you into zombies, and then those zombies turn into tentaculats. They're scary. And their design is appropriately so. I actually really like their design because it's so not something from deep sea, so they actually tried, you know? They didn't just take a nautilus and stick a spear up its face. I mean, I don't like it because it's horrible, but that's what it's supposed to be, so congratulations. Yeah, I don't know how to draw brains. It's a brain. Just know it's a brain. The spikes. And tentacles. It does look incredibly vulgar. Look, I didn't design this. I'm happy. It's having a good time. Stop with the wrinkly bums. Brains are not wrinkly bums. We've been through this. How many times do I have to tell you? This is why you failed biology. Oh, that's nice. So loops. Ah, yes. Yes, that's brainy. Yeah. Things that double back on itself and go round and... That's more like it. I wasn't being... I was being too linear about things. I mean, I suppose it's parameterized linear, but I like it when I work things like this out, sort of randomly. It's fun. It's part of the art process. You just go, oh, hang on, that worked. You know. If I had a bit more time, I'd work on doing this properly. But, unfortunately, I have something else to do. That's not why you failed biology, but God, you wish it was. I think if you had drawn this in your biology exam, you would have had more problems and bad grades. And finally, we want the Reaper equivalent, which is this. Triskine? I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. The UFOpedia describes this as a baby dinosaur with metal teeth and lasers strapped to its back. I have to draw that now in 10 minutes. So... These things crop up fairly rarely, if I recall, but they're scary when they do. So let's try and do... Yeah. So how do dinosaur do? It's hunched over, sort of. So, and it's got the sort of Big old chicken legs. What dinosaurs do. So like T-Rex-esque. Let's give it the little hands. I'm not sure if it actually has hands. Again, it might have nubs. This is the sort of Reaper equivalent, but it does have lasers strapped to its back, so that's the thing. Probably should. Is it lasers? It might even be sonic pulsars again, so let's do the sonic shape. This is sort of what most of the sonic weapons in the game look like. Sort of have that sort of speaker configuration with the roundness. Everything's quite round in this game. No, cute dinosaurs. I do not know how to draw cute dinosaurs, so I'm just going to draw whatever. Again, I'm not using reference. I'm not using reference from the game. I'm not using reference from what a dinosaur looks like. This is just me trying to work out what on earth I'm doing. I don't really draw dinosaurs. Never did. Certainly never drew lobsters, as was probably evident. So yeah, it has like metal teeth, as I said. So these are shiny. There's a baby dinosaur, so the dentures don't quite fit. Ah, look at the sprat. Good little sprat. Channel my inner Nathan. Probably not. I had tomatoes today. I'd rather keep them down. I kind of liked it as it was. By the way, we've now moved on to the soundtrack for the original XCOM. So, have a tail? Probably has a tail. Little nubbin of a tail? Nub. There's also wagging the tail. This is the equivalent of the Reaper. It should have the same excitement. They're having a good time. Having a good time shooting the lasers. If I'd thought forward, I probably would have thought of the, the next line is, I'm a shooting star, so that would have worked. So I don't know if it's got, I probably put a collar on it. Like an electronic one, it's got like flashing lights, stuff like that. Probably strapped to the big hunk of metal on its back, which carries the lasers. This doesn't really look anything like the Tricene, but it fits the description, I think. So yeah, that one sort of came out of nowhere in the game. Suddenly dinosaurs. That happens. I suppose if you're underwater, there are kind of preserved things. I don't know. Let's do sort of more interesting sort of gun things, because I did just basically draw a speaker. Triangles. Toblerone lasers. I wish the laser eye dino sticker was still available. That would have been good. That would have been... I forgot about that. I can put some lasers down here. Why not? Somehow this turned out better than a lot of the other things that I drew, which I thought would be fine. The Gill Man, like, don't know what happened with the Gill Man. And I suppose this should be sort of in here because it's sort of concave. Oops. Nah, that'll do. I don't often finish early for these things. Should have spent more time on the tentaculate brain, but there we go. Tricine, the Triskine, Triskine. I assume these have quite bad, by which I mean devastating, melee attacks, but I don't know. If you're suggesting Dino Atlantis, then you're all for it. Wasn't there a thing? There was a TV show about that, wasn't there? Dinotopia? Forgot about that. They're not underwater, but you know. There's one on a lock near you. Ooh, which one's that? Nelly? Nelly Furtado, apparently. She flies like a bird, but also a pterodactyl. Anyway, we finished early for once. That's the new thing. Boss brushes don't tend to end early. Let's have a look at the Rogues Gallery, shall we? So, going back to the original XCOM, we have... Let's frame this up nicely. Thank you for a rock! Yay. Hurrah! It was a semi-success. There weren't too many monstrosities this time. Plesiosaurs. Well, please yourself. What? Can I give one more rock? What is... My chat's not keeping up for some reason. Oh, for underwater dinos. Oh, yeah. Cool. So we begin with the Sectoids. This was my warm-up drawing, and this was the drawing I actually did. I prefer the warm-up drawing, personally. There we go. No, whatever. That's pretty much the attitude we were going in with this. Then we did Cyberdiscs, which turned into big... Sort of looked more like macaroons than a burger. It was weird. Floaters. Floaters are strange. Blobby things. Don't know what's going on with the head. Let's look up what floaters actually look like in terms of the head. They're probably wearing a helmet. I think they're wearing a helmet. Now that I think about it. Oh, I'm good at this, aren't I? Oh no, they're not wearing a helmet. Oh, okay. That's not too far off. They did have the spikes coming out of the cheeks. I remembered that. Yeah. Although the stick starts much further up, doesn't it? It's not pleasant. So I remembered enough. Not just a human head with spikes. Apparently not. No. But it's got a seam running down the front of it and a very long nose. It's a strange design. Anyway, that's a floater. And there's a Reaper. There's a happy pup with nubs. Let's see if I got the nubs correct. See, this is a top-down angle. It's not. Oh, okay. So there is the autopsy picture, which is unpleasant. Warning for 1990s pixel art of gore, if that is the thing that upsets you. So it's kind of there's the legs, I suppose. There's the head. And then there's nubs. There's no legs. This is the alive picture, so you're looking at it from the top, so you don't get to see. Yeah, it's a weird sort of pig thing, isn't it? Not sure what's going on there. Reapers are strange. So then there was the Mutant, happy little friend. Quite pleased with that picture. Having a good time. Celatid, another friend, having a good time. Floating kidney. I suppose that's the sort of most inventive design in the original, I suppose. Sort of not based on anything else, just a kidney. Good friends, yeah. Then there's the blob with lots of OO faces. Sectoid. Just, you know, crawling around, starting fires. Why not? Snakeman. Wishing you the best. Hoping you're having a good time. Thanks for thanking us for the top hat. Yeah, Snakeman. Chrysalid. Yeah, I want to see what it actually... Because the legs I got completely wrong. But I remember them being thin and weird. So let's look up proper chrysalids. Okay, so they have the... I got the joints the wrong way around. So they do go out... Oh, okay, so it's not the legs that are weird, it's the feet. Okay, it's bird legs. Got it. So these are chrysalids. That's the best resolution we can get. But do you see what I mean about the weird smile and the bug eyes? It's a bit strange. Oh, they got pincers for hands. That makes sense. Yeah, I just gave him jazz hands. Because of course I did. Oh dear. It's not often we get to review these at the end, is it? Jazz hands, of course. When in doubt, jazz hands. Ethereal, literally a cloak. Again, I'll show you the... literally a cloak. Pretty accurate, I think. This is what the finished version looks like. Yeah, I thought it was thinner than that. Evidently mine... Yeah. Wider shoulders. Maybe they didn't need shoulder pads, that's just their shoulders. Who knew? And finally, the Sectopod. There's a happy little piloted thing. Yeah, which I think that's relatively accurate. Then we went to Terror for the Deep, where we had the Aqua Tides, which are just sectoids, but not. They have flippers and gills and stuff. Then the Calcinites, it's a diving suit. There's not really much you can get right or wrong with that. Hallucinoid is a jellyfish. Let's see whether or not it is just a jellyfish. I think it's just a jellyfish. See if there's anything special about it. It's just a jellyfish with a brain in it. It's probably made mine a bit too big, or the brain a bit too small. One or the other, not sure. It's an horrible thing. Hallucinoid's done. We had Gilman. Right, okay, this is where I want to work out where I've gone wrong. Because this is terrible. Oh, it was got like a beak. It's got like this. I got the hood thing kind of close, but it's going over the front and giving it a kind of angry expression, and then there's a beak. Like, sorry, it's a bit small. Can't really zoom. Well, I suppose I can do that. You see? Well, it's got the strange hood thing, but it's got a beak. I've got the beak. Oh, go away. Then there was the deep one. I like this picture as well. Still like yours better. Thank you very much. But I failed in my attempt. Deep one looking upset. Unhappy. You know, happens every now and then. Zarquid. Just a nautilus with things jammed up it. Yeah, let me see the description. Zarquids are actually giant nautilus with a weapon shoved up the tentacles. That's the description of the Zarquid. Yeah. Poor thing. Lobster men, not having a great time as well. A little bit more existential this time, but these things happen. Oh boy. Tassoths, looking good. Inaccurate, but good. And then the Biodrone, which is a brain in a thing. I will show you the Biodrone because it's not far off. Biodrone, basically a hover tank. That's the description of the biodrone. There it is. A little more bulbous, but generally speaking, pretty accurate. Very B-movie. Big fan. And then finally, the two last ones, the Tentaculat. Again, I feel like I need to show you this so that you don't think I made this up. Tentaculat. The tentacles are longer than I thought, but it's got the spikes in the beak. It's not a pleasant design. These things happen. Yeah. And yep, finally our dino friend, the Tricene. Having a good time. Oh, okay, so they went with more a kind of reptile-looking thing than I did, but generally speaking, pretty close. Not terrible. I don't know what's up with that picture. It's very off-center. You hate the wrinkly bum octopus. You're welcome to hate the wrinkly bum octopus. If I ever do a playthrough of it, you will definitely hate the wrinkly bum octopus. They are terrifying. So yeah, that was it. Thank you for coming to the boss brush. I want to do more of these because they're fun. Now that I've set up a system where I can actually look at chat while I do it, and give myself at least 5 minutes for each one. That'd be handy. Yeah. Thank you for coming along to the stream. Hopefully you enjoyed the friends we made along the way, and some of the wrinkly bums that we discovered too. Yeah. If you have any more ideas for what kind of things we can do for boss brushes, by all means suggest them. Obviously they have to be things I'm somewhat familiar with. Again, I've never played Terror from the Deep myself, but I have seen a playthrough, so that's sort of enough. Yeah, there are plenty of other games. I know since I've called them boss brushes, we've only done 2, and neither of them have been bosses, so... we can always go back to a boss. I could do like Bloodborne or something along those lines. Have I done Bloodborne yet? No, I haven't. But I'm worried about doing it because Bloodborne's bosses are messy. You know what I mean? Their designs are deliberately strange and detailed and either covered in hair or viscera. So simplifying them to be able to draw them in 5 minutes, I'm not sure I'm quite prepared for that. I'll have to think it through. But it's possible. There's only 20... There's 22, actually, bosses in Bloodborne. So, that was one with Mossy Goat Boss, the optional boss. Yes, the, Mossy... Call it Mossy Goat. You mean the Cleric Beast, yeah. Dishonored? What? Are you talking about something different? You remembered a mossy goat. I'm confused. I don't remember a mossy goat. Draw through the baddies into... Oh, that's an interesting idea, because I don't really do... I need to do more humans. I need to do more being able to draw distinct humans. So I could probably draw the major cast members and the major sort of, you know, assassin targets of Dishonored or Dishonored 2. That might be an idea. Because there's not many in Dishonored. Or Dishonored 2 that you have to take out for like 5 or 6 per game. Kieran, yes. Kieran is probably one of the more distinctive designs, I think. The second game in general has more distinctive designs. I think the first one was finding its style and, you know, a lot of things sort of felt very normal. Whereas in Dishonored 2, a lot of the character designs, I mean, felt normal. Despite being strange proportions and very wrinkly. Dishonored 2, when that came around, they had more of a variety in the character design, I think. If you take into account the enemies, there's more. I mean... I mean, you think about the Clockwork Soldiers, but in the originals, there wasn't really like that. It was just like, oh, there's members of the Bottle Street gang, and the guards in the brothel, and... yeah. Maybe Bioshock? Again, there's not really much there. Like, there are the distinct, like, each zone basically has its own boss character, as it were. But there's not many of them. It's like sort of 5 or 6. Tall boys. There are tall boys, yeah. There's the church. Church? Why can't you remember their name? What, the church? Oh, you were thinking of enemies. There's a lot of splicers, Big Daddy. There's a couple of variations of Big Daddy, I think. Again, it's just kind of mostly splicers. The ones what walk around with the music boxes. Oh, oh, I see what you mean. Yes, the overseer. No, not overseers. Is it? No, is it the overseers? I think it's overseers. The only reason I'm doubting it is because one of your targets in the first game is Overseer Campbell, and he doesn't wear the mask. So, but yeah, because the one way of taking him out is to make him look like a heretic and so on and so forth. Anyway, have we never played that game on stream? I used to speedrun that. That was quite fun. Oh yeah, that was the thing I wanted to say. Yes. Okay. So I said we're going to be continuing Medieval on Sundays. I'm probably going to disband the idea of wildcard streams, at least for a while. I would like to play more games, basically. And XCOM has been going on for a while. Obviously, it's going to come to an end soon. But I have a whole bunch of game ideas I want to do to play, and as a consequence, I'm just going to set up a second gaming stream, as it were. So, but I might move it around as well. I might have, in the Tuesday, Wednesday block, one of those will be a game stream, and in the Saturday, Sunday block, one of those will be a game stream. So, rather than having them both at the weekend. So I'm working these things out. But either way, there will be 2 game streams where we can do, like, one is a long playthrough and another one is a shorter one with a thing to it. We can do co-op stuff. The whole Magicka thing with Try, I want to do that at some point. Etc, etc. So yeah, but for now, XCOM, Medieval, they're the 2 that we're going to be going on with. Yeah, just too many things I want to do. I also want to do 2 draw-throughs at the same time, but then we have no time for anything else. So these things happen. Piku Niku has co-op, but it also requires me buying Piku Niku. Or someone else. I'm perfectly happy to watch someone else play it. Yeah. This isn't expensive. I have money. I spent a lot of money on Medieval. Anyway. Thank you for coming along. We drew 22 aliens, or like 19 aliens and some wrinkly bums. Have a wonderful time. Thank you for coming along. Tomorrow we do Forest of Doom stickers and stuff like that. Let me just sort the thing out. And then there's the sort of, which I drag up here. Ooh, like that. Professional. Look at that. So yeah. Yeah, I'm going to work on stickers and posters and stuff like that tomorrow, hopefully. Get some more designs up and running, the basics of them ready, so that we can work on them together on stream. That should be fun. Try and plot out the poster as well. So that's the idea. So thank you for coming along. May see you tomorrow, may not. Hello, VOD friends. Hello, live friends. And goodbye, all of you. Be good.